weeks ago.
So,
Let's take
what the
over.
topic today is Figure Robotics dropped a brand new robot, Figure number 2. And then he's making the CEO, Brett Adcock, making some statements out there saying that this is the most advanced humanoid robot out there. He's also posted something like this where, you're going to have to see it to be able to know it. And he's saying, look at me, I'm the captain now. And that's a great meme. But he did it by forwarding this post by Elon in February, which is Bring It On, when Brett first announced that they raised $675 million. So, he's trying to compare himself to Elon. He's trying to compare the bot to Elon, to Tesla bot. And then Milan Kovac posted this. He goes, bruh. And he just showed how, bruh. And he showed the advancements of the bots against each other. So let's watch that first, and then later we'll go through exactly how the two bots compare with each other, and are they really that close to what Tesla's able to do? I guess there's no sound here, but you just see how this is Figure 2's 2-minute video, which I can play as well.
I'm impressed with the fact that they've actually got something out on the market. I think that's fantastic. When he says it's the most advanced one out there, my question would be, out where? Out somewhere, certainly. Out of, there's a lot of ways you could kind of work backwards to make that statement true. And I hope it's things like I'm the captain now, and for that matter, Bring It On, are just playful hubris and not like actually trying to move markets or declare war, because this, as all of us have talked about, the addressable market for this is quasi-infinite. It's anything that can be done in physical space can be done with these robots. And there's, if everyone started making $1 million a year, it would still take the rest of our lives to make a dent in the addressable market.
Absolutely. And as far as that meme, I would not have chosen that meme for one very simple reason, because as I recall, things didn't turn out that well for the Somali pirate. So
yeah. So, this is the 2-minute video that Figure released yesterday. And what Milan is trying to say is, look, you're just basically copying us. Frame by frame looks very similar to what we did in our kind of videos that we've done in the past. And
if there's no talking, let's mute that.
Yeah, there is no talking.
Yeah, because there's risks.
I'd say the first 10 seconds is probably just throwing shade. It might almost be like a frame by frame on that, but a lot of the camera action you see there is the identical camera action that was used in the Figure 1 reveal. So if they're copying anyone, they're almost copying themselves.
Yeah, but the Figure 1 reveal probably was a copy of Tesla. So if you are a non-Tesla bot, you're going to want to raise your perception of who you are to be as close to number one. I keep saying that if you're Pepsi, if you're another brand, you want to compare yourself, you want to hit hard to Coke, you want to say, hey, I am as good as Coke. If you're Coke, you don't necessarily want to ever talk about any of your competitors. You are in a league of your own. And so it makes sense for me, for a competitor to try to say, hey, we're as good as Tesla. However, a lot of the Tesla long-term investors are very upset about this. They think that Brett is, they say there's a lot of red flags. He's too boastful. They just don't like the way that, they think it's a fake thing. So let's get that out of the question, number one. Scott, can you tell us, do you think that this is like Trevor Milton of, what is that company? The Nikola, where he had a fake semi-truck that he's pretended was developed, but actually they had to roll it down a hill because it really wasn't able to work at all. But he told his board, he did a demo, showed that it worked. A lot of people are saying this is Nikola, Trevor Milton all over again. He actually went to jail for fraud. Is this fake?
I don't see any indicators that would indicate it is. I know a lot of people picked out some things that they thought were, and then later on you were able to see that as the kind of behavior that you would expect from the different bots. This is being done in the BMW factory, right? It clearly says BMW is in there. If this did not exist, you would be hearing statements from BMW yesterday or last week saying that, no, we absolutely had nothing to do with it. So that's the first thing. The other is that a lot of the red flags we had was that some of the things that Trevor Milton was discussing were things that defied the laws of physics very quickly. I mean, his whole claims about how hydrogen and how they had these incredible breakthroughs in batteries and stuff like that. I mean, that just seemed like, wow, that's really something else. Now, if we remember the figure demo where they were using the speech when Corey Lynch was handled the Apple, there was a lot of discussions about that, oh, that must have been a dubbed over voice because it was stuttering and stuff like that. And no AI would talk that way. And then the next day, everybody was able to show, yeah, there's AI that actually does talk and stutter and stuff like that. So a lot of times these things that people are picking out as being a potential red flag, you can quickly show, no, the technology is there. So what Figure is showing us, to me, is not breaking the laws of physics. It's actually using a lot of the components and the pieces that are already out there. If anything, if they wanted to be boastful, that bot should have been walking at 10 miles per hour. And they were very successful in actually being able to copy Optimus almost stride for stride. In the case that I will be on the record on this, both bots are slow. So basically they copied Optimus only being able to walk 1.3 miles per hour when the goal is to be going 2.6 miles per hour. So neither one of them is actually fast enough, in my opinion, to be ready to do the task. They're close. There may be some tasks that you don't have to walk that fast, but to really be usable, they have to be walking a little bit faster. So we're not seeing anything here that indicates that they are faking or doing anything else. And again, I would just go to, you don't put BMW on the bottom there without BMW somehow giving full agreement. I've worked with German companies before, and just the fact that they're allowed to mention BMW is already big.
I would say real quick. So with Nikola, I got to meet some gentlemen who worked on the powertrain for that. And when they saw the demo and they saw Trevor saying it really runs and drives, it's not just a pusher, they quit. They walked out the door without warning and never, ever came back. And yeah, there's no reason to fake this. They know that they're towards the top of the pack, considering how many companies there are. They're definitely, I would say they're easily in the top 5 or 10. But they are not the Coke. And yeah, Pepsi, I think their slogan is the official drink of, we don't have Coke, is Pepsi all right? So I think there's room to grow on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that Nicholas Gibbs was able to join us today. He normally does these co-streams with us every Wednesday. He is one of those people, I believe, that is who is reacting very much like, first of all, that this is probably lies, or I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's very much against Brett. Now, you do have a CEO, Brett Adcock, who is definitely provoking. I mean, you don't do something like this. This is a bit of a out there kind of thing. Says, look at me, I'm the captain now. He's provoking.
We can also say that about another CEO that we know. Sure. Okay. So, let's not be hypocritical here. And that, maybe a little bit outside of the mold of others that may make some uncomfortable. But as I pointed out yesterday in the spaces that we did, is you expect your CEO to believe that your product and your people are the best. And you expect him to sort of show that to the world. I'm not going to go out there and say, yeah, our product sucks, and like we're only number 3 or something like that. And the other thing is to remember that anyone that is building any of these kinds of things, they have full visibility on what they are doing. They have limited visibility on what everyone else is doing. And so a lot of times when you compare it, you really do believe that what you have is the best, because you see the progress that's going on. And at the same time, you expect CEOs to have a certain amount of bravado, a certain amount of cockiness, and everything else, because that's how you drive your teams. That's how you get the exposure that you need. So now, do we agree with his statement? The world's most advanced AI hardware? That's up for debate. That will be what for everyone else to decide whether he actually believes that himself. Yeah, I believe he probably believes that. And I think we can agree based on what we're seeing, it's one of the top robots out there. And again, it comes down to, it's a very subjective kind of analysis you have to do. Is we can start making a list of all the humanoid bots that are out there and argue over which one's number one for a variety of reasons. And in many cases, we're comparing apples to oranges. It's very hard to get that apples to apples. So you can make the compelling argument that based on what we've seen and based on what's out there, that they are certainly in a leadership position. We don't know what the current state of Optimus is because we haven't got an update, even though Milan promised us one like a week ago, as soon as he heard about the figure 2 reveal. So until we see that, we can't say. And if this, let's say, a little bit of exchange and back and forth results in Tesla telling us a little bit more of what's going on, then, hey, I'll be all the happier for that.
I had a question for you, Scott, about the hand, specifically about the wrist. Do you think that non-connected, non-mechanical wrist has sufficient strength and dexterity for what they're trying to do?
Yeah, and they're not trying to win the Olympic weightlifting competition. Okay, so I think most of them are looking to do nothing more than 50 pounds combined or something like that for each hand. It'll have a certain amount of strength, but I think on the high end, for the applications that they're doing, I don't think they're really trying to lift very, very heavy things. So mechanically, it may be okay. I think there are other designs that you could put in for a wrist, like what we've seen in Tesla Bot, which have a bit more rigidity and being able to do something like that. So everything is good. I would not score it as the best hand, but I would give it, it's a good hand.
That's okay. Well, let's go through the list later of how Tesla Bot compares to Figure Bot, but that is one area that Tesla has already leapfrog Figure, because these guys have the actuators all in the hand. It's very thick. It's only 16 degrees of freedom.
Leapfrogged on paper.
Sure.
Okay. So this is what I'm saying. If you're going to make the argument on who's ahead, you've got to show me something. Okay. You've got to show me that you actually do have the thing. I know there's like a new design and stuff that's out there, but this is here. And the one thing you could argue between the hands is that they've already got 3 knuckles in there. Tesla does not. Okay. That's coming in the next hand. So if you want to compare where everyone is today, that's where it is. We do know, because we have maybe a little bit of visibility, that there is a new design that's coming that is probably going to be rather incredible, because it's going to have more degrees of freedom than this 16-degree freedom hand. We'll be able to do that movement and everything else. Again, we've got to look at what's the state of what you have today, and don't tell me about what you are going to be delivering tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at this, right, this is the whole point of Milan Kovac's thing here, right? This is December 2023. This is August 2024. And yes, these guys have shown in August 2024, the whole 16 degrees of freedom hand. Okay. But then, it took them 18 months to get here. So to get the next version might be another year. Meanwhile, Tesla's talking about their version coming out in just a few months from now, the end of this year. So,
yeah. So,
you know what I mean?
So
they're
again,
definitely ahead.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone would say that you could we're not saying who is ahead. We're just saying it is a close race. And if you kind of compare with what's there are some aspects that they are in the lead and others not. And then you have to decide from your own rubric, when you go through all those different items, who do you think is best? Clearly, the Tesla Bot, even though it's not walking that fast, is walking more smoothly. The Figure Bot looks much more mechanical. You're not seeing a nice heel to toe kind of transitions on that. So Tesla Bot looks to walk a little bit better, a little bit more confidently there. But on the other hand, is you want to talk about talk is cheap. We keep on hearing about there's going to be an LLM interface with the Tesla Bot. We haven't seen it yet. We've already seen it with Figure. So if you're going to put that on your rubric, it's already on over. And that's what I'm saying. You can go back and forth and like, who's got this and who's got that and what's really more important. Then you might point to another company or where they say, well, there's one over in China. It can walk 7 miles per hour. So he's got you guys beaten hands down. And I'm like, no, he doesn't have his beaten hands down. He doesn't have hands. Okay. So in order to be part of the competition, you got to have a fully formed human, a body.
Yeah.
So we can go through and say the best hands out there, Sanctuary AI, no doubt about it. They get the best hands, the most degrees of freedom. We've seen how nimble they are. The thing is, it doesn't have legs, it doesn't walk. Okay. So we can say, doesn't count. All right. And so we can kind of go on down that and really cull the list down and then start deciding where you are in the competition. And again, it's going to come down to everyone's subjectivity on which do you think is more important, and do you believe the other side will be able to implement that kind of capability? Yes, I think they will have, some version of Grok and LLMs in Optimus, if not already. The thing is, they haven't shown it to us. Okay. And so
they shouldn't show it to us, don't you think? Though?
Yes, they have to.
They should not. They should not.
Well, because they don't have to. Then we're just surmising that they have it already. And until they do, we cannot put it on the checklist as something that they actually have.
If you are the company that's trying to compare yourself to the best out there, then you need to show everything you've got. And then you're trying to say, hey, but if you're the best company, you come out when talk is cheap, but let me show you when I've got 1,000 bots on the factory next year.
And speech-to-speech LLMs talk is cheap too. Okay, we haven't seen it yet. Okay,
sure, I get you.
We're gonna talk is cheap, hands down, stuff like that.
Come on, even this video here. Let's go ahead and listen to it a little bit. Yeah, it's impressive, but at the end of the day, it's also something.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
How much does that add to my score?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Yeah. So they've shown that, that's a good demo. So let me show this table. Cern Basher, Scott Walter have been putting together. It's a comparison of all of the different bots out there. Of course, there's millions, hundreds, and we don't have all of them. But this is the ones at the top are North American, European, and the ones that are red are the Chinese. And we're just trying to, keep track of who they are and what they've said. Are they commercial focus, right? I suppose we don't want to really focus too much on the ones that are just research based. Are they walking? Have we seen a demo? Do they actually have hands? Mm-hmm. Have they shown that they can do useful work? Have they shown that they can do LLM and voice integration? Can they actually show that they can do autonomous work? Have they announced a pilot and are deploying bots? And I know we're kind of late here because a lot of these companies we've spoken to, they've told us, hey, how come you don't have us in the deploying bots? We're already deployed. So we haven't quite put them there.
And what's deployed? There's pilot deployed, and then there's actual deployment.
Yeah.
I would think agility is the only one that we could say has done real actual deployment.
That's
and
what
a truly
saying.
Commercial thing as opposed to a pilot. So others are showing us a little bit. And I just want to go back to the video that you showed previous with Figure and the LLM speech. Now, when you looked at it, for a lot of people, they were just like, oh, that's going to all be faked and stuff like that. The thing is that the technological pieces were there. This idea of me being able to talk to a computer, the computer turning it into an LLM, bring it back and have that conversation. We know it's there. It wouldn't be such a big deal to put it in a computer that happens to look like a humanoid bot. So to me, it's like, oh, okay. I'm not surprised they're able to do it. What was most surprising to me is like, how come no one else had already done it up to that point? Because to me, it seems like it's a very simple kind of thing. And it's either because others haven't done it, they haven't seen the importance of it, or they just don't want to reveal it yet.
No, I mean, it is true. We have seen agility. Remember, you and I have done a video where we watched them 6-8 months ago. They showed that you can tell the digit, go pick up the ball of yarn or whatever it was and the cotton and pick it up and put it here. Remember that one which is place something on the highest red tower or the tower that's the same color as Darth Vader's.
The same Darth Vader's, exactly.
Saber.
Exactly. Yep.
And so, nobody saw that video except you and me.
Yeah. So they were there, but again, the question comes down to is like, why aren't we seeing it anymore? And we have. I mean, it's like if you remember the NVIDIA presentation, I think a bunch of them had some sort of LLM kind of capability or speech capability. So that's not something that we should consider a technology that only one company has access to. It's pretty clear where they're getting it from. They're getting it from OpenAI and others to be able to provide
Who's
that kind
partnered
of
with
service.
what, 9 of these companies, if not more. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the bravado is there. That's one of the concerns. He also said, so this is, he explained what Figure 2 has: 6 cameras, 50% battery. Just quickly, Scott, anything here that is ahead of what Tesla's doing or behind what Tesla's doing?
No, not necessarily. Let's say, okay, speech to speech reasoning. We haven't seen that in Tesla yet. Okay.
Correct.
So right there, they get a check mark on it. The exoskeleton structure, maybe that's a good idea, maybe not. They've done it for robustness. It makes it a lot easier to put your harnessing through there. We'll see in the end of the day whether that's a bold choice to do that or not. Integrated wiring, they're all doing that. Everyone's been working on different generation hands. So I would say their hands are similar. They get a slight advantage over the fact that they have 3 knuckles in there, but they don't. From what I can tell, they don't have the touch sensoring. It looks like they removed the touch sensoring, but the Tesla bot does have that. So it's like, oh, okay, well, which do you think is more important for a particular application? So, very close there. The CPU, GPU, well, that we know that's being covered by the FSD chip and probably a couple other chips that's on there. So it's hard to compare what's, the capabilities there in the VLM. The battery, adding 50% to the battery basically brings them up to the same level as Optimus. So they're both 2.3 kilowatt hour batteries. And that probably comes from the requirements of their customer, and that to not have to be recharging a lot. And then, let's say, sizing the battery to be able to make it through, because it was mentioned that they can do a 20-hour day. It doesn't mean a 20-hour on one charge. It means that over a 24-hour day, you could expect 20 hours of work. And this is something that both CERN and I have gone through to show in spreadsheets that yes, by strategically using the scheduled breaks that are in a factory, you would be able to top off your battery. But for that to work, you probably need something that's over 2 kilowatt hours. So that's there. 6 cameras. I think the Tesla bot always had 6 cameras, maybe more based on some of the patent filings, but I'm not sure that they've actually put them. The patents show one thing. What we end up seeing might be a little bit different. The placement of these cameras is a bit interesting. You have what looks like a Cyclops, really big camera lens in the middle of the head that does not appear to be stereoscopic because it's single. And then you have 2 that are kind of down in the shoulder area on the chest, which are the 3 forward-facing cameras. And then you have in the back, and I think it's you'd probably be able to find it more in the beginning of the video as we it was just back for a little bit there. You see the back of the bot also has 3 cameras that are sort of facing down. And Brian, why would you want to have rear facing cameras?
So you don't back into a boiling cauldron of a witch's brew. No, I just, because you need 360 vision to avoid obstacles and know if ninjas are sneaking up on you.
Yeah, I'm not sure they have 360, because if you look at that, it seems like, well, they must have some stereo there. It's pointing down, so it's seeing the ground behind it pretty well. I was sort of joking yesterday that it won't be able to see a raptor coming out of the sky. So that'll be able to come down, grab it by its shoulders and kind of pick it up unless it's looking up. And I don't think you get full 360, because to me, what's the field of view in the back there? Maybe 140. It's narrower. It's mainly there. So for the same reason we have a rear facing camera in our Teslas is so it can back into the parking space, right? So it can see what's behind it.
Maybe it's a charging.
Yeah. So in this case, we can see that they're putting that to use in their factory setting, that when they pick up a part, they take a couple of steps back. And when they drop the part, they take a couple of steps back, because it may be more efficient and quicker to take a couple quick steps back rather than trying to turn around and get yourself out of that situation. So it makes sense. I'm not sure why you would need to have 3, because my Tesla is able to back into its parking space with just one fisheye lens, which seems to always be dirty.
Well, okay, yeah, unless one is infrared and one is near and one is far.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, no, for real. I mean, being well, yes,
If you're
Richard is
Walmart, you need
correct.
360.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not 360 again. It's kind of clipped off around there, so you have to move your head around a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got a big blind spot. You just have to sneak out right next to him, side
Yeah.
by side.
Okay. Scott, I want to push back a little bit. Sorry. Okay. I know what you were saying, which is this is what figure revealed yesterday. So it's out there and it's a demo, guys. Come on. It's a video, right? So it's okay. But at least they showed the demo and you're saying, okay, Tesla has not. But let's step back a bit and let's walk us through this, right? Okay. You got me on speech to speech reasoning. I do not know if Grok is going to be any better than NVIDIA. You're correct there. But my assumption is it's going to be, because they have the largest supercomputer in the world right now in Memphis that will be better. Now, don't know. They got a partnership with OpenAI. So you're right. I don't know that one. Integrated wiring and exoskeleton. You know, if you look at Tesla's bot, they already had that very sleek. They were so far ahead in January. It already looks so sleek. So they've been working on their next gen. This is the latest gen for figure. Fourth gen hands. You and I talked about this already. I don't agree with you. You know, Elon was just saying that 50% of all engineering for the bot is in the hands. And so they've been working hard. They realize it needs to be muscles and tendons. So Brett just released figure 2 yesterday. For them to create figure 3, it's going to be another 18 months, or maybe they started 6 months ago.
Absolutely. And
So
Herbert,
they might be leapfrogged.
Just a second, Herbert. I'm talking about capabilities today, not capabilities tomorrow. So when I'm comparing the hands, I'm not comparing to the 22 degree, which I've gone on in length many times about how great that's going to be when it comes out and is going to be a game changer. Again, I'm saying what we have to do is we have to compare what we see with what's been out there. And so right now, if you want to, you know, we have to compare the Gen 2 to figure 2. We can't compare it to now. If you want to, I mean, we've got that liberty. We don't know enough. We just know that 22 degree freedom hands are coming. We don't know if the Gen 3 bot is going to be able to walk 5 miles per hour like we've been promised, or if it's also going to be kind of that sluggish 2 mile per hour. We don't know that, but we do know that the figure Gen 2 bot looks like it's also only going about 1.2 miles per hour.
I'm just saying that,
and it's got a lot of runway.
I understood. I'm just saying that if a company has been talking about it, they've been researching it, they've been developing it, maybe they're ahead. So we'll see. You're right. They're all going to keep refrogging each other, but that's the point. Now, the CPUs and GPUs, this one, you cannot argue with me. Tesla has the most advanced inference chips out there. You can see them in the cars. You can now see them in the bots. They're low cost, low efficiency, low energy usage. You know, it's just amazing. It's better than NVIDIA's training chips that they have. That one, you can see it already out there now. So no one, these guys would have to buy it off the shelf. And even if they did, it won't be as good as Tesla's. Then you've got the 50% battery. And again, sure, maybe they bought the batteries out there, but you've got to, know.
It's the same size pack. That's all they've done is they basically bumped up to be the same. And both Tesla and Figure are easily 50%, if not 100% ahead of every other company when it comes to the size. From the sizing, we can figure out most of the others might be at 1 kilowatt hour. And these are like both around 2.3. So as far as battery capacity, they're the same. But let's remember, battery capacity is not the same as energy efficiency. You have also the battery management system, which we know from the standpoint of how Tesla manages their batteries can also be a huge advantage.
Okay, like you say though, I'm basing a lot based on what I'm expecting Tesla to be able to do, and then of course we cannot not address the fact that Tesla has a manufacturing plant that proven they have it today. I can ask Brian. Yeah. How many do they have?
I would add that I do not have any skepticism about the demo. I saw quite a bit of skepticism expressed on X, but I assumed that was within my bubble, my little echo chamber of the kind of people that I follow who are typically a bit pro-Tesla. And I didn't necessarily think all of them were being sincere. I think a number of them may have been provocative just because they know that Brett doesn't respond well to criticism, and you can't feed the trolls, man. You feed them, they just multiply. It gets out of control. So yeah, I think what we're seeing is as real as any product.
Did you say
demo?
out of control?
Yes, but I don't get what is funny about that.
Because you were talking about the trolls getting out of control.
All right, Scott, calm down. The beauty is that I think this is as real as any demo. Does it do the things we saw? I think it does. Does it do them 100% of the time without issue? I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't assume that from the clip, but I think it's a real product. And I'm just excited to see so many people pushing forward this aggressively on something like this.
And let's remember, it's really half a demo. If you look at what's going on, I call it's a place demo. It's very good at placing the parts in their final destination. It's not very good at picking them up, because that we can see is staged. That's not how the parts are arranged on the factory floor for picking.
It's more of a teaser than anything else.
Yes.
You know?
So they've solved the whole half. Yeah. Well, I'm not even sure I'd say they solved half the problem. Placing is very easy because those fixtures and everything are designed for you to almost throw the part at it and they will just fall into place magically by themselves. The trick is pulling those things out of the bins when they're like scattered all over the place. And let's remember, these things are coming right out of the body shop where they've been using some sort of lubricants in the presses. So they're covered with a little bit of oil on there. They're very sharp. They're, jagged edges. They're in weird, and it's like sometimes trying to peel one thing off of something else. That's going to be challenging. And then I want to see the wear and tear on those hands when the day is over. That might be a reason why Tesla hasn't been showing us doing that, because it's a lot easier to pick batteries off of a line and drop them in there, because that is a very simple problem. The pick location is always very easy. The dropping or going down there, that is not a hard thing. I've always wondered, why aren't they doing exactly what Figure is doing at the BMW plant? Because that is the low-hanging fruit as far as finding a lot of places where the task is, quote, simple. Maybe because pulling out of those bins is a lot harder than everyone thinks.
So I'll tell you, when I worked in metal fabrication, there were some jobs that would require us to wear cotton gloves. The plating that's going to go onto this finished product is such that we don't want human oils. Machine oils we know how to remove consistently, but human oils not so much. Don't touch them. And by the end of you would easily go through one pair of gloves in a shift, maybe two or three, because it would just tear it up. And your hands would eventually get calloused and all that, and you'd be injured kind of all the time and healing all the time. But if a robot is working in that environment and they have to replace finger pads daily, go for it. If they have to replace entire hands weekly, go for it. It just factor it into the cost.
Yeah, it's going to have to be, or you're going to have to get some kind of special gloves for it, because everything from the fact that you're dealing with very sharp objects that probably has some kind of lubricant on it, that lubricant is just going to find its way into the mechanism and everything else unless you have it covered. And you can't stop just at the hand. You're probably going to have to go up a little bit further to make sure all that is adequately covered.
And that lubricant also, when the pieces get together, acts as as an adhesive.
Sticks together. Yeah.
Yeah. Surface tension.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to show you a photo. Can you tell me what this is?
Is this a Rorschach test coming up?
Yeah.
Are you? Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So that there.
What is that?
Okay. I think is it Memphis or
come
Austin?
on.
That's the cooling for in Giga, Texas, I believe.
Yes.
Or the new server farm that they're setting up
called
there.
the Cortex.
Yes, the Cortex. And what you're
NVIDIA's
seeing there is the
H100s
world's
and H200s.
largest octavalve, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is this real, Scott?
Yeah,
Is
that's
this real?
Yeah,
You can
that's
physically
real.
go there, right? You can touch it.
Yeah, you can.
It's real, right?
No, I have.
Okay.
I personally haven't seen it, but I'm assuming the pictures are real because I have driven past there.
Okay.
See, when was the last time there? Just a couple of months ago. I don't remember seeing it when I was down there.
So this Figure have one of these massive data centers like this?
No, they don't.
But this
Hardly
is real,
anyone
right?
does. I mean,
This is
they're
real.
all
Wow.
relying on whatever it is that their partners have, which would be
This
like
is today.
OpenAI and others.
This is
Yeah,
today. This is out there. So how important is having the largest supercompute possible for developing a bot?
It's very important because the brains is like almost like 90% of the importance of the whole thing. You can build a super elegant mechanism, and if you can't figure out how to program it, it's just a lump of metal. And that's what my whole career has been, is trying to figure out how to get industrial robots to go to point A to point B and get that programming done as quickly as possible. The AI completely changed the equation because now the tedium is taken out and you can do things more complex. So that is going to be very, very important.
So is it true if I make the statement? Tell me if this is true. I will say that many humanoid bots companies will survive. Many humanoid bot companies will fail. Many humanoid bot companies will be able to do useful tasks. They'll be able to do, let's say, pick and place as one example. There can be thousands of jobs that they can do usefully and be sold. However, there's only a few humanoid bot companies that can do generalized tasks that go beyond these 1,000 tasks. And that is the difference between potentially today between Figure and Tesla Bot. Tesla Bot, because of the data centers they have, the compute that they have, the knowledge and skills that they have to create massive numbers of bots, the vision that they're going to get, the ability to train it to do billions of tasks, versus these other robot companies that will be successful. They'll be able to sold, they'll be able to do useful tasks, but it's going to be limited use cases, limited in the sense that there's 1,000 of them, not billion. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes. And that comes down to how good your foundation model is in being able to do a variety of different tasks. And if you have a very narrow focus that these are kind of the tasks I plan on doing, you are building your mechanics around that and deciding that, well, I don't expect my robot to play in the symphony, so I don't have to come up with a hand that allows me to play the oboe or anything like that, where I'm going to need, to have a lot of dexterity and a small little pinky and everything else. If I'm going to be working in the plant, I design my bot that way. My compute's going to be that way. But if I'm thinking much broader and I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to just be stuck in the factory. I want to come into the home. I want to be able to do more and more applications. Then you start thinking, all right, not only do I need a lot of compute, I need the mechanics to match the compute. And my hand right now, my hand design may not be up to what I'm seeing. And I would like to have a little bit more dexterity. And remember the pinky? It's not just something you get out of the way when you drink tea, right?
Is that an indication for $1 million?
Yeah, something like that. No, this is something that Elon talked to Lex about in that podcast, which none of us have had time to listen from end to end yet. Elon talked about the importance of a 5-finger hand and how important your pinky is to the dexterity, which tells you that, their mindset is like going way beyond the mechanical design. So we know. So Herbert, let's be clear on that. The 4th generation hand that Figure has is okay and is maybe equal to what the Gen 2 bot has right now. But what we know is coming is going to be way out there. Exactly. It's going to have way more dexterity. And there's a good chance that it may be equal on par or better than what we're seeing out of Sanctuary AI. And the Sanctuary AI may have a little bit more movement because Sanctuary can do this. And we know, at least what we've been told, that the Gen 3 bot will not be able to. It'll be able to do this kind of movement. However, Elon kind of hinted that the finger lengths may be different because he, it was very clear. He said that if nature wanted all our fingers to be the same length because there was some advantage to that, they would all be the same length, but they're not all the same length for a reason. So that means he's thinking about that. And he also started complaining about how difficult it's going to be to build these things, because remember, the best part is no part. The best skew is like no skew. Keep everything simple. Make all our fingers the same length. Get rid of a knuckle. Get all that stuff. And then Elon talks about, well, you take anything out until you start throwing things back in, right? And so it's something like 10% you have to throw back in. It may be that he's throwing in way more than 10%. So they realized they went way beyond where they went because the expectation is, and like most people's first assumptions, which was the first assumption that the design team had, is like, we only need 3 fingers. Guess who else has come to that same conclusion? They only need 3 fingers.
Raptors?
Well, Raptors and Boston Dynamics. And Boston Dynamics has like a weird hand where there's like all the fingers are also thumbs because it can kind of go backwards. It's just weird. It's like you look at it, it's like, yeah, that's a hand design an engineer would come up with that's going to solve certain specific use cases, stuff like that. But if you're really thinking the way you want to have a hand, you get inspired by nature. That's why 50% of the effort is going in there. And it sounds to me it's going to be pretty complex and not going to be this thing you just snap together really easily, which we thought at first would be easy. It's like, oh, all the fingers are the same. They're reducing the parts, it's going to bring the cost down. They'll figure it out because they're used to managing complex supply chains, large numbers of SKUs, being able to assemble different things. Not that many are going to want to take on that task. And again, it comes down to what's your niche? Are you trying to, let's say, are you just a niche player where certain functionality will be good enough for that? Or are you thinking more broadly? In which case, general, you need to have not only, an AGI for general solution, you need to also have something mechanically, which is general purpose.
So, Scott, I have a question for you, and I think I know the answer, but you're more of an expert. I keep seeing people on X and other social media making the claim that because we're seeing a new demo from company XYZ, that means that they're definitely ahead of this company who hasn't released anything in a month or 3 months or 6 months. For that to be true, they would have to stop working, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So yeah. How do we explain that to them?
Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing is we don't have full visibility. And even when we do see something, they're holding back and not showing everything. So we have absolutely no idea. And that's why sometimes we get surprised when all of a sudden this company we've never heard of releases something and we're shocked, like, wow, I've never heard of these guys. Where they come out of. That's just the nature of the game. And that's why I'm saying it's very hard to score, that we can only make the comparisons with what we are shown. And again, talk is cheap. People can talk about all these things, but we do know. And again, the Figure 2 robot was not a surprise to anyone. Is it because we had insider information because someone tipped it off? The Figure 2 robot's coming out. So it's like, no. First, they named the first one Figure 1, which implies they're probably thinking of a Figure 2 at some point. And the other, every company does that within 18 months or a year, they come out with another one. So the thing was predicting when it was going to come out. It's like, we know they're going to come out. And I will predict this right now. There will be a Figure 3. Wow. And there'll be a Figure 4. And you'll come back to this video and you go, God, what a genius. He predicted that there'll be a 3 and a 4. Or
okay.
Maybe actually I might be wrong. It'll probably be called an F3 and an F4 because I noticed they dropped the name out. And I can't wait for a Figure 8. Yes.
Well, I tried to look up the alternative one to that one, but every time I hit Alt F4, my computer window closes. So
yeah.
All right. But Scott, here's another one, right? Have you heard of any company today who's making bots, let's say humanoid bots, announce that they're going to make 1,000 or multiple thousands of bots next year?
Next year, some of them are talking like they would like to see that within the next year or two. So they're all talking that game, but there's a difference between talking it and actually doing it.
There's one company.
There's one company that's clearly on the record. The others are talking about the need to get, okay, Sanctuary says, first to 1,000 is very important. Yeah. They're getting ready to do it. Others are like, we hope to hit maybe 100 this year and then scale to that in the next year. But, and it wasn't so much like, it was 1,000 in the factory, maybe a few thousand. Right. And we can see that because, that's going to be the production version 1, which if it's of the Gen 3, it's going to be interesting to see how they do the production of the hand.
So you have Sanctuary saying their CEO, Jordy Rose, we've interviewed him. He's very, pretty boastful as well.
Yes, okay? Exactly.
And he said, we are the leader. And he goes, we are going to be the first to make 1,000 bots.
Yep.
Now, his is backed up. Sanctuary is backed up because they have a partnership with Magna. Magna is a massive auto developer. They can build parts. They can build cars. So maybe he has, possibly saying that. You've got Tesla. Clearly, they have the ability to make 1,000 of these whenever they want to. That's no one in contention there. We don't know yet where Figure is, and we haven't heard yet their partnership for manufacturing. Right. So, again, when you've got Tesla saying we're going to make 1,000 next year, again, it's just words, but it's backed up by,
we've seen enough.
It's not out of the
yeah. And we've been disappointed that they haven't already produced 1,000 because we figured they already could have produced 1,000 if they wanted to at this point.
Yeah.
But it was very clear that that was getting ahead of the game. The design wasn't ready. They needed to learn a little bit more. But if they want to turn it on, they could produce 1,000 next year. Now, could they produce 1 million next year? Maybe not, because that's going to require, slightly different ramp up to be able to get to something like that. But 1,000 will be pretty easy. The others, it'll be, if they really, really wanted to do it, could they? I suppose, but it would be a really heavy lift. Really heavy lift. You're talking about building 3 a day.
That's one where you have to show me. You have to show me.
Yes, you're talking 3 a day.
Not just a partner. Like you have to show me.
And let's remember, okay, that's 3 a day, right? Not taking any weekends or holidays to be able to get to that 1,000. And and within that robot, you might have to produce 1 chest plate, for each robot. So 3 chest plates a day. Well, that's no big deal. That's just like some injection molding and stuff like that. But you get the 40 actuators, not all which are identical. So that means for each bot, you're going to, that's 120 every day I've got to produce. Am I set up to be able to come up with a production rate or something like that? So yeah, there are going to be things which will limit the production volume that these companies will be able to hit if they want to hit something 1,000. Agility has already talked about setting up a factory to be able to do that, but they know that's like a long term. They've put enough. They've sized it so that it would be capable of doing that, but they're not going to be doing that next year. Next year, maybe they would be in the area of 1,000. They might be thinking of being able to do something like that, but I don't think beyond that.
Yeah, I really wish Nick Gibbs joined us, because he is, I believe, one of the people, the Tesla investors, who are just absolutely livid with what they've heard Brad Aycock say. They think that he's, red flags everywhere. They think that he's boasting, that it's not backed by truth. So let's recap where we're all sitting, right? It just happens that the 3 of us feel this way, but there's lots of others who feel differently. We don't think that Brett is actually lying per se. So a lot of people think he is. We think that it's kind of true, but he's definitely out there. He's provoking, picking at this. And then, but you say if you look at, apples to apples right now, there's some things that Figure is doing better than Tesla and others. But at the end of the day, when you carry it out for large supercompute, factory creation, and of course, just the skill and design, of creating a product. Yeah. And you agree, Tesla's definitely got huge advantages over all of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the thing is that they will never be able to produce enough robots to satisfy the entire market.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, certainly not in the early days. So
even Tesla won't.
The TAM is so big. Another thing, if they did, then they would be broken up in no time for being a monopoly. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. Is you want them to be in a very strong position. A lot of people will see them as being probably the premier kind of robot that's able to fit in a lot of things, but there's going to be room for a lot of these other bots. And again, I look at it as like, there's all sorts of different smartphones, different types of phones you can get out there. And some phones are extremely cheap, very prolific. They're out there where they can't do a whole lot, but they serve the needs of a lot of people. And that is, I just need to be able to call someone and talk to them and do a few things. There's going to be a lot of bots out there like that are not going to be in this deluxe class, in which everyone is going to be just fighting it out for the margins. It'd be a very simple bot that's not able to do a whole lot, but does it well. And that's it. And that's all you want it for. And then there's going to be, the higher end humanoid bots. And again, it's going to be like the Star Wars universe. I mean, it's like, you kind of wonder, it's like, why aren't all of the bots like C-3PO? I mean, he seems to be the most sophisticated of all of them. Why were all these others that were, and it's because you don't need a C-3PO to do some of the tasks that you were seeing in there. And you're going to see the same thing.
And I think that's a very good point. C-3PO would have been a very expensive robot that also doesn't have the same kind of utility a lot of the others do in terms of ability to get into small spaces or whatever. So that's actually a good point. And it'll be interesting to see how cheap the utility, the bare minimum robots get. There are, like you said, those, if you need a brand new $50 smartphone, those exist. There are whole countries where those dominate the market. Maybe not 50, but under 100. And you can get good stuff eventually in that price range. And like you were saying about the challenge of scaling up 120 actuators a day from nothing, that is a big challenge. And eventually there will be, Magna and others who have commoditized these parts, so that they can be
Yeah.
produced at insane scale.
Right. And as far as the cost, I think the Unitree dog bot is what, like $1,200 to $1,600. I mean, that's pretty cheap. And it's able to walk around and go upstairs and do backflips and a variety of other things. So that gives you an idea of how cheap they can be. And you've also probably seen the factory they have where they're producing them. They're producing very large numbers of that. So that's what we're talking about is you're going to see those. The question is like, what's the capability of it? It's not exactly the same as your dog, but it's entertaining. You can probably do quite a bit. And at some point it will have more and more functionality. The very early cell phones that we had, the very early flip phones, can do very much more than make a phone call, and they were pretty expensive. And now for well less than that, you can, like you say, get a pretty cheap smartphone that's got a display on it, and you can run apps and do everything else. So we know that that's going to change as we go in the future, and these bots will become more and more capable, especially as AI just becomes more prolific and it becomes easier and easier for people to be able to set up a neural net to run anything they want.
Okay. And I think the last point I want to talk about is perception matters. Perception matters. Does it or does it not? You've got Figure coming out. He's poking the bear, saying, we have the most advanced. He's trying to compare, create a little rivalry with Tesla. And then, of course, you got Milan Kovac coming back, who's in charge of Tesla bot, showing this, right? Which is, bro. He goes, bro, look, we did this months before you did. And he showed, shot by shot that they're ahead. Does perception matter? Does it matter who's ahead? Yeah.
I'm going to push back and say, no, perception doesn't matter unless you need to raise funds. That's the only time it matters right now. If you've got enough funding to get into production and into the market, execution is all that matters. I don't care if you think my product is second rate. If I'm selling 1 million at a substantial margin, you can think whatever you like about me. You can have a bad perception, especially when it comes to business applications. The only thing that matters is the utility for the cost. And if you've got one that's got a fancy brand name but is cost prohibitive, it doesn't matter. People will eventually buy the one that's cheaper and better. So I'm thinking, perception, unless you need money, not as important. Who wants to argue? All right, I win this round. Point for Brian.
I think you're right. You're right. It's a very, very, very good point. Having said that, I do think that Tesla and Elon also, they certainly need to and they want to position themselves as, that's why he's building the Roadster. Like, why? I don't need to. But I want to show you what we're capable of. Just wait till Roadster has SpaceX technology and it flies a little bit. Who cares if we sell 1 million of them? It's not going to move the needle. But perception matters. We are the best. We can do anything. We can make a car fly. So, and perception matters when you need to hire the best of the best. The best engineers are only going to go to the company they believe is the best. So,
I think that's an important point to make, is that everyone keeps on thinking that, Elon built all the stuff. And the fact is, no, it's like the teams that he put together, they built all the stuff. And part of it is attracting, good teams, good managers, and everyone else to be able to do it. Because one person can't do it all. They can certainly lead the way and lead the charge. And so that will be important from the standpoint of perception, is that believe it or not, there's probably a lot of graduates out there that maybe haven't heard of Figure yet, or even Tesla or some of the others, surprisingly, and are thinking, oh, where should we go work? And this is how they know about what they could actually do with their wares.
And I think that, there's certainly it's not a one-man show. I've seen people asking, why are all these companies showing demos if they don't need funds, if they don't have a product to sell? And it comes back to the whole reason for AI days 1 and 2. It is about recruiting. And especially if you're not Tesla or Figure or Boston Dynamics, if you're a company that a lot of people have not heard of, then how are you going to actually get recruit talent? it's going to be challenging unless people can see what you're doing and be excited about it.
And so just remind you, Elon himself, February, replied to Brett when he raised $675 million. He said, bring it on. So he himself is very open and wants, please, you go on, challenge us and we'll see.
Yeah, we want no one company can do it. By all means, be a serious competitor. And I am of the opinion that Brett Adcock has stepped up to the plate and is being as serious of a competitor
this is a little
as
too
is
far,
possible.
Though.
Well,
I think it's a bit too far.
I think I think he's just playing. I think it's in good fun. Elon likes to be silly too. Maybe Brett likes, I don't know. I don't know the man. I didn't see anything malicious or insulting in it. But if you guys did, especially in the chat or the comments.
I would not have picked that one just because I knew how things turned out for the Pirates. So
no
you want to be the
spoilers.
captain now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for the conversation. It's timely. This has just happened yesterday. Figure released their number 2, and they're trying to position themselves as good as or better than TeslaBot. And then we had Milan Kovac, director of TeslaBot, come back and fantastic reply. So this will be fun to continue to see the development of both. Thank you so much, Brian. And of course, Dr. Scott Walter, you are unmatched out there. You out-troll all trolls. I say that in a positive way.
I'd have to keep it under control.
Control yourself. The best. Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.